So this video is going to talk about creating vectors given some critical pieces of information. And so there's two ways that I've asked students to be able to do this. The first way is I'll say create a vector with a given magnitude and in the same direction as another vector. And then the second thing I would ask is create a vector with a given magnitude, and then the other piece of information, and in a certain, certain direction angle. And so those would be two common ways in which you could create vectors being asked given certain information that they want to have. So we'll start the first one. So the first one, let's just say that you want to create a vector with, let's say the vector is v, right? So you want v to have a magnitude of 10, and you want it to go, so with a magnitude of 10 and in the direction of, say, u, and u is, let's say, 5i plus 2j. Okay? And so if you want to create a vector v with a magnitude of 10 and in that direction, the first thing we're going to do is we want to find the unit vector of u. So the reason we want to do that is because if the unit vector has a magnitude of 1, then vectors, when multiplied by a scalar, their magnitude grows that amount. So if you have a magnitude of 1 and then you multiply it by 10, now you have a vector that goes in the direction of u, but then has the magnitude that you want. So remember, to find the unit vector, we're going to take and first find the magnitude of u, which is the square root of 5 squared plus 2 squared. So 25 plus 4 is 29. So the magnitude of u is the square root of 29. So the way to find the unit vector is to take 5i plus 2j and divide it by the square root of 29. So you would have 5 root 29 over 29 I plus 2 root 29 over 29 j. Now if that's the unit vector with a magnitude of 1, now multiply the unit vector by the given magnitude. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply by 10, because if the yellow, right, the unit vector of u has a magnitude of 1, well, when you multiply by 10, it'll now have a magnitude of 10. So the answer would be 50 root 29 over 29 I plus 20 root 29 over 29 j. And there it is. You've created a vector with a magnitude of 10, and it goes in the same direction as u. A second way that, like I said, I've asked kids to do it is I've said, okay, here is the given magnitude. It says create a vector v with a magnitude of, let's say, 20, and goes in the direction angle of 150 degrees. So one thing to know before you start, when you are given a direction angle, the way to create the unit vector is to think of the unit circle. And so in the unit circle, cosine relates to the x value. So the unit vector will be cosine of theta, comma, sine of theta, since sine relates to the y value. So cosine is your horizontal component, sine is your y component. And so the way to create the unit vector is pretty straightforward, or excuse me, the given vector that they want is all you're going to do is you're going to multiply the magnitude, so 20, times the cosine of 150 and sine of 150 degrees. The reason this works is because the unit vector, remember, has a magnitude of 1, so cosine 150 sine 150 creates a vector with a magnitude of 1, and then when you multiply by 20, now it's a vector with a magnitude of 20, but going at that angle. So I've chosen 150 degrees so I don't have to use a calculator, but if it's an angle that isn't on the unit circle, just use your calculator and round to an appropriate decimal place. So cosine of 150 is negative rad 3 over 2, and sine of 150 is positive 1/2. And you're going to multiply by 20. Remember, that's 20 over 1, so when you multiply it in, you would get negative 10 root 3, comma, 5. Or 5, good grief, it's too late. Let's see if I can erase that. Right, and 10. And there is your vector. It's got a magnitude of 20, and it goes in the direction of 150 degrees. And those are two ways you can create vectors. There's other ways too, but those are two pretty basic ways that you can do it. All right, have a good night.